Okay, let's be honest with each other for a second. You've watched Yellowstone. You've scrolled through Zillow at 2 in the morning looking at 4,000-acre spreads in Wyoming. You see the snow-capped peaks, the herds of cattle moving lazily across infinite green pasture, the private trout stream on the back 40, and you think to yourself, that is it. That is freedom. That is the ultimate asset. You buy the dirt, hire a couple of rugged hands in Stetson hats, and watch six-figure checks roll into your bank account every autumn while you drink black coffee on the porch. It looks like the most romantic, bulletproof cash machine in American real estate. Here is the brutal truth. Almost every single word of that fantasy is a financial lie, and the parts that are true are significantly more dangerous than they look from the gravel drive. What you are actually signing up for when you buy a ranch is not a peaceful lifestyle retreat. It is an excruciatingly complex, hyper-leveraged industrial operation that merges heavy commercial real estate development, high-risk livestock commodity trading, extreme weather exposure, scale human resources, and government regulatory compliance. Some people who step into this game become extraordinarily wealthy, mostly because the land under their feet appreciates while they sleep. But operational ranchers? The people actually trying to make a living selling beef? A terrifying percentage of them bleed cash silently for years, propping up the business with off-farm jobs or debt until the day the weather or the market decides to break them completely. Today, we are stripping away the Hollywood romance and looking at the cold, unforgiving math of owning an American ranch. Before you write a deposit check, you have to understand a fundamental rule of agricultural finance. The word ranch is a marketing umbrella that covers about 8 completely different business models, most of which share nothing in common except dirt and barbed wire. A cattle ranch raises commercial beef. A bison ranch is a niche specialty protein operation with zero liquidity in local auctions. A horse ranch is essentially an elite sports training facility with massive liability insurance risks. A hunting ranch monetizes wild game access. A guest ranch is a high-touch hospitality business. It is a boutique hotel that happens to have horses. And a luxury recreational ranch, the kind bought by hedge fund managers in Aspen or Jackson Hole, isn't an agricultural business at all. Its primary products are ego, privacy, and capital gains tax shelters. If you confuse these models, you will destroy your balance sheet. A 50-acre guest ranch in the Texas Hill Country charging $800 a night for log cabins is operating on hospitality margins. A 10,000-acre working cattle operation in eastern Oregon is fighting global beef trade dynamics, South American soy exports, and the Chicago Mercantile Exchange every single morning. In this documentary, we are dissecting the heavyweight champion of the industry, the commercial cow-calf ranch. This is the classic American dream, and financially, it is by far the most complex beast on the continent. Let's start with the largest capital expenditure you will face, the land itself. According to recent land value summaries from the United States Department of Agriculture, the national average for pasture land sits around $1,900 to $2,000 per acre, but that national average is a statistical ghost. The spread across the United States is mind-boggling. If you go to far west Texas or high desert Wyoming, you can find grazing land for $800 to $1,200 an acre. Sounds like an incredible bargain, right? Now travel to the Texas Hill Country near Austin, or the Front Range Corridor in Colorado near Denver and Boulder. That same dirt will cost you anywhere from $7,000 to $50,000 per acre. Why? Because in those markets, the agricultural productivity of the soil has completely decoupled from the real estate price. You aren't paying for the forage quality of the grass, you are paying for the view, the water rights, and the proximity to tech millionaires looking for tax write-offs. Here is where city buyers fall into what land brokers call the cheap dirt trap. They buy 10,000 acres in Wyoming at $1,000 an acre, thinking they outsmarted the system. $10 million done. But in the arid West, the carrying capacity of the land is brutal. Because the grass is sparse and precipitation is low, it might take 20 to 30 acres to support a single cow for 1 year. To run a commercially viable herd of 500 cows, you need 10 to 15,000 acres. In lush parts of East Texas or the Southeast, that same cow only needs 2 to 4 acres because the rain is heavy and the grass grows like wildfire. So, yes, the land in Wyoming was cheap per acre, but your operational costs per cow are sky high. You are hauling hay across massive distances, burning diesel for hours just to check a fence line, and spending 6 months of the year feeding expensive supplemental forage because the ground is covered in ice. Cheap land isn't cheap. It just forces you to spend your capital everywhere else. Congratulations, you signed the deed on 10,000 acres. You think you own a ranch. In reality, you just bought a very large, extremely expensive pile of dirt with a for sale sign removed from it. Before that land produces a single dollar of gross revenue, you have to build the industrial infrastructure that allows human beings to manage thousands of half-ton animals. And this is where new owners get hit with severe financial altitude sickness. First, fencing. A standard 5-strand barbed wire fence costs between $8,000 and $13,000 per mile to install today, including labor, steel posts, and cedar stays. A 15,000-acre ranch has a perimeter boundary of roughly 60 to 80 miles. Add interior cross fences to create paddocks for rotational grazing, and you can easily sink $400,000 to $800,000 into fencing alone. If your terrain is rocky, steep, or heavily timbered, double that number. Second, water infrastructure. Cattle don't drink out of scenic puddles. An adult cow drinks 10 to 20 gallons of water a day. In the American West, surface water is heavily regulated or non-existent. You need deep agricultural wells, solar-powered or grid-connected pumps, miles of buried PVC pipeline, and heavy-duty stock tanks distributed across every single pasture. Budget another $100,000 minimum. Third, working facilities. You cannot vaccinate, sort, or load a 1,200-pound animal into a semi-truck with good intentions. You need heavy steel corrals, sorting tubs, load-out ramps, and a hydraulic squeeze chute, a piece of equipment that locks a cow in place so a veterinarian doesn't get trampled. That setup alone costs $50,000 to $75,000. Add hay barns to keep winter feed from rotting, equipment sheds, gravel access roads for heavy trucks, and housing for your ranch hand. By the time your raw land is actually operational, you've spent anywhere from $600,000 to well over $1 million on capital infrastructure. That is unleveraged cash sunk directly into the dirt, generating zero immediate cash flow. Now it's time to buy the living assets, the cattle. And if you're entering the market in the mid-2020s, you are buying at some of the highest livestock prices in recorded American history. A quality commercial bred cow, a young female already pregnant with her calf, will cost you anywhere from $2,200 to $3,500 in today's market. To assemble a baseline herd of 500 cows, you are writing a check for $1.2 to $1.7 million. Then you need bulls. You need roughly 1 bull for every 25 cows. That's 20 bulls for a 500 cow herd. A basic commercial bull runs $4,000. A bull with elite genetics proven EPDs for low birth weight, high weaning weight, and superior carcass quality can easily fetch $10,000 to $50,000 at auction. And unlike a piece of commercial real estate, a $30,000 bull can step in a badger hole, break a leg on Tuesday morning, and become worthless salvage meat by noon. There is no replacement warranty on a dead bull. Next up, the fleet. You cannot run a modern ranch with a wheelbarrow and a pair of boots. You need at least 2 utility tractors with front-end loaders for moving 2,000-pound round bales in deep snow. That's $100,000 to $200,000 right there. You need heavy-duty 3/4-ton or 1-ton pickup trucks capable of pulling gooseneck trailers through unpaved mud, $75,000 each. You need stock trailers, UTVs for checking fences, hay balers, mowers, and fuel storage tanks. Financing $200,000 of farm equipment at current interest rates adds $3,000 to $4,000 a month in fixed debt service before you've sold a single pound of beef. Here is the structural trap that destroys most amateur ranch operators. the catastrophic mismatch between cash inflows and cash outflows. In a normal business, you sell products every week or invoice clients every month. In the cow-calf business, your expenses arrive 365 days a year, but your revenue arrives once, maybe twice, if you split your calving season. You spend 12 months bleeding cash, waiting for a single payday in October when you wean and ship your calves to market. Let's look at the actual operational budget numbers from agricultural extension data provided by Kansas State and the USDA. The average annual operating cost to maintain a single cow in North America now hovers between $1,100 and $1,500 per year. Let that sink in. Where does that money go? First, winter feed. Grass doesn't grow year-round in Montana, Nebraska, or the Dakotas. From November through April, you are feeding harvested hay. A 500-cow herd eats through thousands of round bales during a hard winter. At $80 to $120 per bale, your winter hay bill alone can easily eclipse $150,000 to $250,000. Second, veterinary care and medicine. Vaccines, deworming, pregnancy testing, breeding sound exams, and emergency blizzard interventions run $35 to $60 per head annually. Third, labor. You cannot manage 500 head of cattle across 10,000 acres alone unless you plan on never sleeping. Experienced ranch hands who understand stockmanship, machinery repair, and calving management command fair wages, plus provided housing and utilities. Finding reliable agricultural labor in rural America is currently one of the greatest operational bottlenecks in the entire economy. Throw in property taxes, fuel, liability insurance, and equipment maintenance, and a 500-cow ranch burns through $600,000 to $900,000 in cash every single year just to keep the lights on. So, let's run the actual revenue equation for a top-tier, highly efficient 500-cow operation in a strong market environment like 2025 or 2026. You start with 500 cows. Assuming a solid 90% weaning rate, meaning 90% of your cows successfully deliver and raise a calf to weaning age, you have 450 calves to sell in the fall. Half are steers, half are heifers. In a historic bull market where 500-pound feeder calves are commanding record prices of $400 to $480 per hundredweight, a healthy steer calf might fetch $2,400 at auction. Heifers sell for slightly less. Your average price across the entire crop lands right around $2,200 per head. 450 calves multiplied by $2,200 equals $990,000 in gross agricultural revenue. Nearly $1 million. It sounds like a massive triumph. Now, subtract your actual operating costs. Feed bills, labor, veterinary fees, fuel, equipment depreciation, property taxes, and land maintenance, which run between $850,000 and $950,000. Do the math on that balance sheet. In a great market year, after managing 10,000 acres, battling winter blizzards, risking millions in capital, and working 80 hours a week, your net operational profit on a 500-cow herd is somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000. On an initial capital investment of $10 to $15 million in land, cattle, and infrastructure, that represents an operational return on investment of less than 1%. A high-yield savings account at a local credit union pays 4 times that amount with zero physical risk, zero dead cattle, and zero 4 a.m. fence repairs in a blizzard. This is the dirty financial secret of the American cattle industry. Cash-on-cash operational returns are razor-thin and, in many years, completely negative. And that tiny 1% profit margin, that was the best-case scenario. That math assumed a 90% calf crop, record-high beef prices, and perfect weather. In the ranching world, those 3 variables almost never line up simultaneously. Let's talk about the ultimate wildcard: drought. Ranchers don't run on money, they run on grass. When a multi-year drought strikes the southern plains or the Intermountain West, the grass stops growing in June instead of September. Your stock tanks dry up into muddy puddles. Suddenly, you have 2 choices: both of which are financially devastating. Choice 1. You buy extra hay on the open market. But because every other rancher in 3 states is facing the exact same drought, the price of hay doubles or triples overnight. Your operating budget explodes into catastrophic losses. Choice 2. You liquidate your herd. You load your cows onto trailers and ship them to the auction barn early. But because thousands of desperate operators are dumping cattle at the same time, local market prices crash. You sell your core income-generating assets at fire sale prices just to stop the cash bleed. And when the rain finally returns 3 years later, replacement cows are selling at record highs because everyone is trying to rebuild their herds at the exact same moment. Between 2011 and 2025, prolonged severe droughts forced the U.S. national beef herd down to roughly 94 million head, the lowest level recorded in America since the early 1950s. Droughts isn't a rare anomaly in the West. It is a recurring structural feature of the landscape. What the cattle market gives you during 2 good years, a single brutal drought takes back over the next 3. So how do the ranchers who survive for 3 generations actually stay in business? The answer is simple. They don't treat their land as a single product beef factory. They look at every square foot of dirt and ask, what else does this property produce that wealthy people will pay for? Stream number 1. Hunting and wildlife leases. In states like Texas, Wyoming, and Montana, commercial hunting rights are often more profitable per acre than the cattle grazing on top of them. Leasing trophy, whitetail deer, elk, or exotic game hunting, access to corporate groups or private clubs can generate $5 to $25 per acre in pure, high-margin cash flow. On a 15,000-acre ranch, that's $75,000 to $375,000 a year in passive revenue, and the cattle are still eating the same grass. Stream number 2. Conservation easements. This is the single most powerful financial mechanism in American land ownership, and it is vastly misunderstood. A landowner enters a legally binding agreement with a land trust or government entity to permanently surrender their development rights, meaning the land can never be subdivided into suburban housing tracts or commercial strip malls. In exchange, the IRS allows qualified farmers and ranchers to claim a massive charitable tax deduction equal to the lost commercial value of the property, deductible up to 100% of their adjusted gross income, with a 15-year carry forward. For high-income operators, a conservation easement can virtually eliminate federal income tax liability for over a decade. Stream number 3. High-end agritourism. City dwellers are desperate for the authentic Western experience, and they will pay luxury resort pricing for it. By building 6 to 10 high-end guest cabins and offering guided trail rides, chuck wagon dinners, and cattle driving experiences, ranchers can charge $300 to $800 per person per night. A well-managed guest operation can easily generate $500,000 in high-margin cash flow during a 6-month season, completely smoothing out the wild price swings of the wholesale beef market. This brings us to a paradox that puzzles outside observers. If the operational economics of cattle ranching are so razor-thin, why are the wealthiest individuals in North America furiously buying up millions of acres of Western land? John Malone owns over 2.2 million acres. Ted Turner controls 2 million acres. Stan Kroenke bought the iconic Broken O Ranch in Montana. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and elite private equity firms are continuously expanding their agricultural land holdings. Are these billionaires foolishly chasing a low-yield cattle dream? Of course not. They are playing a completely different financial game, one where the cows are merely an accounting line item. First, capital preservation and inflation hedging. Land is an asset that cannot be printed, hyperinflated, or wiped out by a corporate board scandal. Over a 50-year horizon, American agricultural real estate has delivered steady, low-volatility capital appreciation that consistently outperforms inflation. In states like Wyoming and Montana, ranch land values have surged over 30% in recent years alone. Second, agricultural tax exemptions, ag exemptions. In states like Texas, Maintaining a small, active livestock herd on a property qualifies the entire multi-million-dollar land tract for an agricultural tax valuation. Instead of paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual commercial property taxes, the owner pays a tiny fraction of that amount. The cattle aren't there to make a profit. The cattle are there as living lawnmowers that secure a 90% discount on state property tax liabilities. Third, ultimate privacy and geopolitical security. A 100,000-acre ranch provides something money usually cannot buy: complete physical isolation. It is a private sovereign kingdom with its own water supply, energy potential, private airstrips, and zero neighbors within 10 miles. For a billionaire managing geopolitical risk, that security premium is priceless. So, where does all of this leave you if you're standing on the outside, looking at a real estate brochure, dreaming of buying your own piece of the West? Ranching in the 21st century is one of the most unforgiving business models in existence. If you go into it treating it like a romantic lifestyle purchase, assuming the cows will automatically pay off your mortgage, the operational reality will dismantle your fortune piece by piece. The daily expenses will arrive relentless as clockwork, the weather will mock your financial forecasts, and the commodity market will show you zero mercy. To survive in this game today, you must see the land as an operator sees it. You must accept that cattle are a high-risk commodity, that cheap land is often an expensive trap, and that long-term survival requires diversifying into hunting, conservation, hay sales, or agritourism. The people who succeed in ranching aren't the ones who bought into the Hollywood romance. They are the disciplined asset managers who understand that a ranch is fundamentally a long-term real estate play wrapped inside a brutal daily operational fight against nature. Land rich and cash poor is the default setting of the American West. If you want to own the dirt, make sure you have the capital, the stomach, and the financial humility to let the land win. Thank you for watching the World Money Desk. If you want to understand the raw, unvarnished economics behind the world's most complex industries, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on land ownership in America, and we'll see you in the next documentary.